Okay, so next up we've got some spoken word. Does people like that? Do people like spoken word? Yeah. Yes. I like that when I whisper, you whisper too. It's really awkward now. Okay, without much further ado, I shall invite to the stage. Make some noise for Mr. Charles Wheeler.
Hi. Is everybody having a lovely comedy festival? Yeah. Good. I'm here to ruin it with a lovey-dovey poem. That's a much more positive reaction than I was expecting. Okay, I wrote this like 10 days ago, so I'm going to have it on my phone, but I should have remembered it by now. So I'm going to have that there, I'm going to try not to look at it. But don't tell me off if I do. Okay, it's called They Told Lies About Us. They called us Love's Young Dream, when what it felt more like to me was a collision of two old souls in fresh heads, was a light being turned on in an empty floor's hallway, revealing the escalator was a whole patch of universe finally deciding to be honest about itself. They said we were made for each other, jigsaw pieces, ignoring the happy coincidences, misunderstanding the inevitable frictions of two whole beings settling into each other, forgetting the journey and missing the view out the window. They were glib. They summed up. They saw the painting, new poem, teething problems. They looked, there we go. They looked at the picture we were painting and they liked it, but they didn't quite get all the happy little trees were every bit as important as the cornucopia on the table in the foreground. They saw the river, but skipped 1,000 years of water cutting the rocks apart. Imagine, though. Imagine if anything anyone had ever said about us was true. Imagine if anything we thought they could say about us was true, like I choose to have a vain teenage romantic's facial hair. Let you take it in. Take it in. It's awful. No, I just can't be bothered. This just like takes a month. Yeah, or you actually did get the holes in your jumper by trying to do the YMCA with your arms folded. I finished leftover food out of desire rather than compulsion and guilt. You have 2 stages of pajamas because you need more self-care rather than that being expert execution of your self-care. I hate shopping because I'm a bloke and not because the inside of Primark makes my synapses fire vicious heat missiles all around the tubes up there. You are scared of anything rather than just being sick of putting up with it. Imagine if we were something other people could sum up with words. Imagine if even I had a shot at doing it. Imagine what this must do to me if I have to give it a go anyway. So let's not break, and if we bend, let's bend together, and rarely twice the same way. Again. All right. Let's not be invincible, let's be vulnerable, and then either heal or grow. Know that they will always describe us. Know that we will always revel in it. But hey, on the quiet, let's roll our eyes later and then stay indescribable. Thank you. So the next poem was not written by me. It was written by a robot about my face. I went to an exhibition in Dublin a few weeks ago called Humans Need Not Apply at the Trinity College Technology Gallery, and it's really, really cool. Basically, what they have is a guy called Ross Goodwin, who I have to credit because he made it. Although he made it, right, but he insists that the thing itself writes the poems. So I feel like that's kind of like crediting my parents for my poems. I don't know. But he's still, I guess he needs the credit because he's still making art, whereas my parents aren't still making children. So, you know. Although they did make my sister, who's an actor, so you should check her out. So yeah, basically it's a camera, and you press the button for however long you press it for. I pressed it 3 times by accident because I'm an idiot. It prints out a little poem about what it sees from your face. So I'm going to read this. This is what this robot said about me. A black and white photograph of her. It's getting cut soon, don't worry. A black and white photograph of her body was his sense of problems, and he knew that she was too glad to be dead because he was a great man. A person is wearing a black shirt and a black painting and a fingernail and a shoe. Person standing in front of a building filled with a totally superior light and a corridor of dogs at the top of the path. A white curtain bears a drowned hand. The sea is falling into the sky. The nose of a man with a handkerchief came up and slapped his head against the wall. Put that pistol in his hand. She shifted her first light. A person wearing a black shirt. I should point out this was in a very dark corner of the room, so I imagine a person wearing a black shirt came up a lot because that's all it could see. A person wearing a black shirt and a black hair still blown out of his hands. The man has a beard and a striped hat and a second step and a short story. Light on the ceiling floor, beautiful green pond, well, it says ports, but I assume it meant ponds, of space, now soft and sweeter than this one drawn from the dusty sky. A light pole in the shadow of the stone stair that still lies in the soft red water. Now, for a robot, I think that's all right, so maybe a round of applause for him. It's interesting. I'm going to move this here, because... Watch me break everything. Because I have props for this one. I used to do this with little A4 cards that I would fling all over the place, but then there was like an awkward 5 minutes afterwards when nobody else could do anything because I was picking them all up. I did it once with a cinema screen, which was much more effective, but they wouldn't let me bring that in here. So, that's me, that's my name, I'm sure you know. And this poem is about grammar pedantry and how I don't like it anymore, but I used to. It's called This Pedant's Work. Take it in, see if you can spot it. Yes. Very good, well done, you have won. You don't win anything. There is a reason for it, it shall become apparent. So, this pedant's work. The day you broke your jaw, I told you to let it go. All that will happen, I said, is it will keep hitting the floor, but you swore it was about history. You like context, you said to me. Why don't you like rules anymore? Well, that wasn't the point. The point was something more, beyond preference for rigidity or desire to keep score. What we deal with, I complained, is not a case of now versus your. It's all one long thread woven through with no allegiance to your or your. What matters isn't what is seen, it's that you still know what I mean when I explain like this, that scene, seashells she sells upon the she-saw. Which begs, if she can sell seashells, why bother her for more? Just praise her for her enterprise in selling shells of things that died, or more float free among the tide and move your ever-watchful eye onto some other shore. But you soon replied, once building a missing apostrophe on a leaflet at Gloucester Cathedral and put it back in the holder. True, said I, but that was then and this is me, 10 years later, allowing the recounting of that incident to break what tenuous rhyme scheme this poem had managed to develop. But why, you implored? Because, I said, it always takes a second, that one. Because, I said, there is an errant possessive apostrophe born atop a cafe's door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Oh, but it bothers me, you bored. In that case, I said, fuck you and yours. Because she down there on that seesaw seashore, she still has to keep a score and follow letters to the law and make 2 + D = 4, lest she be judged and branded whore. You can tell that's the one that I forgot to do and put in like 5 minutes ago. It's all over that side. She saw the structures as she learned within its halls. She saw her teachers revel in its thrall, and maybe we should think about how she might have felt a bit off, as plosives and sibilants comprised the bluffs of buffs. She might have thought she should sod off, that sodding off would help a job, might stop this tiff and clean its rot, but then insistence on dashes and dots started to grow past 3 o'clock and into 9 to 5s and blogs, and she saw Russell Howard riff on toff scoffs as that tiff became a rift and grew a little more. But she sells seashells in spite of what she saw. She shills the shells and shirks the bores who cling to rules as if they store some virtue shielded from law. She fucks them off while they protest that language must evolve no more, and I will not take up the chore of laying some blame at her door, nor letting talk stagnate to snores, instead of acting as a score for life that we might have eyes for. But you like words, you said to me. Why don't you Oxford commentate anymore? That's not the point, and furthermore that point is sore. So take my form from off your law and quote this pedant nevermore. The day you broke your tongue, I told you to let it go. The worst that could happen, I said, is it could change its shape a little more. And then you swore. Thank you very much. Thank you. I have been Charles Wheeler. That is my Twitter. If you want to follow me on it, that would be nice. I mostly complain about politics and rugby.